Hello and welcome to Beats, Beds, and Browns. My name is Joe Skibby. If you're looking for the best in emerging hip-hop artists, garden interests from homestead to commercial ag, and bourbon whiskey distillers, you've found the right place. Beats, Beds, and Browns is concluding our sixth season next week, December 17th, with Derek Drake of Ditto Farms. Tonight, we're gifted to have AJ from Sister Sprig Farm. And again, if you're new or haven't started your growing journey, visit beatsbedsbrowns.com. Get your free seed kit. We want to encourage you to grow your own food, get people started on the journey and the path with Mother Nature, whether it's physical, mental, or overall wellness you're looking for. We've found it, and we want to share it with you. beatsbedsbrowns.com. Get your free seed kit or follow us at your social media of choice at BeatsBedsBrowns. Tonight, Sister Sprig Farm and Floral, founded in 2025 by AJ and Katherine, a woman-led, community-rooted urban farm based in Bronzeville, Chicago. As a lean, 1/8 produce and floral operation, the team champions accessibility to fresh food, plants, and floral goods, bringing real soil to city block energy into neighborhoods that often get left out of the farm-to-table conversation. Under AJ's founding leadership and alongside her co-founder, Sister Sprig is more than a farm. It's a movement cultivating urban food justice, connection to land, and community resilience. Let's welcome AJ to the stage.
Hi. Hello.
Good evening. We couldn't be happier. We're going to get right into it. We're going to kick off like we always do. Where you been, where you at, and where you going?
Yeah. So where I've been, I grew up in Michigan and actually started farming there. I had kind of stumbled upon. Okay. So I grew up West Michigan over here in Holland. Went to Michigan State, a little more central for some college education. I got really into urban ag there. I was blessed enough to be in a residential program kind of focused around urban ag. So got a really good experience there, and then went to Flint for a while, a little further over, and stayed there for almost 5 years and was working in the urban ag kind of garden food access scene out there for a while.
So was that Flint? Was that like peak water crisis time, or?
So I was after technically, but it's an ongoing process, Yeah,
I know it wasn't a start at that point, but
yeah.
So growing in that environment had to be particularly challenging, but I'll let you finish the question.
Yeah. So now I'm in Chicago, have been for the last couple of years, still doing the urban ag thing. And where we're going is anywhere life takes us, but somewhere on a farm for sure.
Oh, I love it. And you were studying ag studies at Michigan State?
Yeah, so I had a double major in organic horticulture, so I could do kind of like the urban ag track. And then I had urban planning as well, so I could kind of learn the zoning code side of things. There wasn't a specialty for urban agriculture as a major, but I kind of was like, here's two sides of something that, put together could give me a pretty good perspective on how to approach this idea, this concept. So. And
you almost need that degree to be able to grow in some of these communities to figure out what's legal and what's illegal.
Yeah, I'm gonna be full honest. I didn't finish either of my degrees, but there's a lot of key players who have, and they're crucial for building. So sorry, the dogs. Cha-cha, what you do, buddy? It's
friended dogs around.
But there's urban ag is a network of people, and so the people that are in those roles that have completed those degrees and are in those spaces are really crucial to people doing what I'm doing too. So that was just the end of that thought.
That's incredible. And so what's the backstory with Sister Sprig? Can you get into that?
Yeah, totally. So moving to Chicago from Michigan, I went into the Windy City Harvest apprenticeship program. Windy City Harvest is kind of like a subgroup of Chicago Botanic Gardens, and they do job training and programs for urban agriculture on the south and west sides of Chicago. So they have their headquarters is Farm on Ogden in North Lawndale, and then Legends Farm, which is what's our incubator site, that's in Bronzeville. So after completing the apprenticeship, they have a follow-up program called the Business Incubator. And so us as graduates, I had a couple classmates, so it was myself, Catherine, and our friend Jacy as well, helped start and apply for the incubator program where we were granted access to 1/8 of an acre there at their Bronzeville Legends farm. And so this season was our first as a business ourselves.
So for the listeners who aren't growers, and even to give myself a picture, what does 1/8 of an acre look like? How big of a piece of property is that? What's comparable?
Comparable. Okay, so we have 13 4-foot beds. So what's that math? 40, whatever, like 50, 60 feet across at 100 feet deep. So okay. I don't know, like maybe like half a soccer field, a little less than that. I'm really bad at this. It took me a long time to figure out what space looks like. I'm like, this is 6 inches. That's all I got. This is good. Like all I need.
So is that like a big backyard or a little bit larger than that?
Oh no, we got glitchy there for a second. Are you there?
I'm sorry. Is that like a big backyard, or did I come back? I'm lost. Looks like we're having a little connection difficulties. While AJ becomes reconnected, I'm going to go ahead and share both our social media channels and our URL. At Beats Beds Browns is our social tag on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube. And if you're looking to grow your own food, please feel free to end up visiting our site and getting your free seed kit. Let's see. And we've been at it for about 6 seasons now. We're in the middle of our 6th season. And we've got invitations to our 7th season that will be kicking off at the start of first quarter of 2026. So looks like AJ is back. We're going to welcome her back to the stage. AJ.
Sorry,
I'm trying to figure out the math of what 1/8 of an acre looks like. And we heard half a soccer field. We heard 4-foot beds, 13 of them.
Yeah.
So kind of a big backyard setup. Maybe a little
big backyard, yeah. Yeah, maybe like a city lot, kind of.
Okay, city lot, good stuff.
Yeah.
And what was your metric for success? Did you measure weight? Maybe not with flowers, or was it in sales, or how did you guys gauge?
Good question. So since the 3 founders of us, we met in the apprenticeship, and we're friends first, and we became friends working on the farms together. And so for us, one of our success measurements was like maintaining friendship and relationship in owning a business, because that's a big transition to go through, especially with people that, we just met the same year we decided to open a business together. So it was a lot of learning ourselves and learning each other in relationship and in building a sustainable business. And so one of our metrics was, to be able to maintain the friendship and relationship. And then our other goals were more to establish like in a community or a presence within the Chicago Urban Ag Network. It's already really well established and vast. And so as new people, it wasn't so much our priority to hit a certain sales mark as much as it was to like meet the right people kind of thing. So it was a lot of like putting ourselves out there, just trying out things, and as opportunities came up and seeing what was going to stick and what seemed to have traction or motion, and what relationships have, like those long-term potentials to help us have stability, and then what we can give in return for the communities that have supported us this first year too.
I love it. I love the long-term mentality of planting seeds and harvesting those seeds as they become ready to be harvested, but especially the community basis and the relationship, and the first metric of success is staying together on this journey. So that's really cool.
Yeah.
How did you guys select what you were going to grow?
Good question. So since we are still like part of like an incubator of Windy City Harvest, they have a wholesale channel with Midwest Foods that's already established that we're able to sell through, and they have a list of produce that Midwest Foods usually take. So 1/3 of our farm we dedicated to what would be assumed to be taken through wholesale. And so those are like our Carmen peppers, kale, scallions, crops that we knew we could plug them in, get the successions out, and keep them going and moving into the wholesale channels. And then we had 1/3 for florals. And so Jacy and I both have like prior farming experience, and Catherine is pretty new, the apprenticeship being her start of her journey. But none of us had done flowers in like a production scale before. So we went with just like some of our personal favorites, things that are like, you know what, this brings me joy, and like it's a place for us to start. So I was like zinnias, cosmos, things like that. And then the other third were more like what we call our specialty crops, just like special, like the more special peppers like shishitos, havasus, jalapenos, cayens, like, you know, the things that are a little more niche, our special kinds of eggplants, our cascarita pumpkins, the things that are just like, ooh, these are unique, these are fun. And like we want these, and we want to be able to sell these to folks. And maybe that's going to be some educating or really, you know, pitching this as something to try. But, you know, again, this is our first year, and it's our first time really exposing what we have to offer to the market. So it's really a trial run of, you know, what works, what doesn't, and what was just fun. Because that's also a big part for us, was that like this is, you know, hopefully going to grow into something that is our livelihoods, our well-being, like our whole system, you know. But for the time being, it's a passion project. And so what are things that are going to bring us joy when we see them growing and thriving in our farm, you know?
Yeah. No, I love the untethered capitalism of that, right? It's, we're going to make what the customer wants, and the customer is going to let us know through what they buy. And you already had the pre-negotiated distribution paths with your partners, and the rest is an exploration based on what your interests are.
Yeah.
The biggest challenge, you know, you talk about growing in these quantities with the available space. Did you run into pest challenge? Did you have an overabundance of things that, you know, you could redonate into the system? Like, what are some of the challenges?
Yeah, well, so definitely pest issues. The site that we're on has a pretty heavy rotation of farmers coming in and out. And so those plots, you know, have either been tended to well or they haven't in prior years. So some things are still hanging out from the last few years, or, you know, are just starting to resurface after a couple years of hibernation, you know. So it's always coming onto a new piece of land. You're always coming into a whole new picture, and like you're gonna take some time, or should take some time, to learn what's going to pop up and what the timing of what's already there is going to be. So like for us, we had like flea beetles for sure, crazy grasses, like rhizomatic grasses, like crazy, which are always so hard to deal with, you know. Our plots have also had sweet midge the last few years, which is kind of like a newer pest to the area. It hits brassicas pretty hard. So, you know, we had some of that information going into it. So our crop planning kind of went around like, okay, like peak season for midge, we won't have any brassicas in the field kind of thing, or, you know, but what was the original question? Where am I going off out here?
Yeah, no, those are all challenges. So you answered the question. That's,
okay, great. Yeah, challenges for sure. So yeah, that being on the plot, and then it's also like it is a community space, and so there were 6 other small businesses there, and so we're sharing tools, we're sharing resources, we're sharing water pressure, you know. And so there's also, again, having our business being focused on like interpersonal relationships, having to learn how to navigate sharing these needs with other businesses who like you also want to be successful. So that's it.
I love it.
A lot to observe, take it.
What this goes to kind of the pest issue and pest challenge that you faced. What do you guys call yourselves? Are you a regenerative farm? Probably not on your land. Are you a pesticide-free farm? I understand the realities of that, you know, marketing term. Like, talk to me about what you guys, outside of a community-based thriving market farm, what are you guys?
Yeah, so we do practice all organic practices. We're not certified, just for, you know, the big barriers for beginner businesses, mainly financial for that. But we do use organic certified insecticides as needed. So we have like insecticidal soap. We do have like applications for powdery mildew like fungicides and whatnot, but they're all, like I said, all organic certified. But we are pretty low key. So we do incorporate intercropping into our crop plan. So using plants that kind of repel pests for other crop varieties together. So, you know, we're pretty intentional about our plan and keeping it, like letting the plot do what it's going to do and let the ecosystem coexist here, but in a way that like we can still have what we need to come out of it too. And then it was also, again, something that a thought that we were going to take into the next season too, of like, okay, they really like our eggplants, and like the flea beetles really like our eggplants, and our market doesn't really want eggplant as much. So like, is that a crop we really need to try again next year? Or is it one that we can like take out and put more space into something that wasn't as popular with our pests? So especially being in the first year, we were kind of a little more, I wouldn't say hands off, but a little like step back and let things do as they do, and taking that information into the next season so that we can plan around it more accordingly. And that's to be intentional towards the environment, but also to ourselves and our time. Like, we all work jobs, we all have lives to balance too. And so making this as self-maintaining as possible is kind of part of the intention too.
Yeah, man, so many questions. I love it. So talk to me about having a full-time job and a team of 3. Like, do you have additional staff or volunteers outside of that, or is it just you guys?
Yeah, so this year it was just us. We did do some like work share days with some of the other farmers. It's a really unique situation to have our farm neighbors literally right next to us. So sometimes on the weekends when there's 3 or 4 farms there, it would be like, hey, like, could you spend half an hour helping us with this project? We'll hop over to your plot for the next hour after that or something, you know? So being able to share labor and time that way was something we did, but otherwise it was primarily the 3 of us. And it's a big challenge. It's definitely a reality that people that are going into this need to consider how realistic it can be for like on your physical body. Like burnout is real, and like throwing out your back or stressing muscles is real. So like, do take that into consideration, especially because all 3 of us worked jobs that were in like urban egg fields. So it's like, we're going to work in urban egg and then we're coming here to work in urban egg. So, you know, we really have to be considerate about pacing ourselves and whatnot. And it was one of the biggest challenges we faced this season, I think, because at different times of the season, we all had life happening. You know, one of us has older parents. I had a loss in the family this season. You know, so we had kind of seasons within our season where each of us kind of need to step away or take care of other things. And so when you have the other 2 worked full-time jobs, like kind of like 9-to-5 situations. And so them having more rigid schedules, I took a job that has a more flexible schedule. So I was still working quite a bit, but in hours that would allow me to be available for our like Tuesday deliveries for our wholesale kind of thing. And that was something we had to take into consideration. You know, like I'm not really working a full-time job, but I have contract hours that are a good amount that's going to help me get through it. But that is a financial hit that I'm taking for the first few years of our business, but that's what's helping it grow into a space that it can be the main income, you know? So that there are challenges in balancing the time and the energy and what your body's limits are to be able to make sure that you're sustaining, you know, like the reality of your life, but that you're also making like impactful progress in the farm project as well to keep it going.
One of the major through lines of this that we didn't anticipate when we started is that entrepreneurial workload and the journey of oftentimes having full-time employment while you're getting your label or music off the ground, while you're building brand awareness around your distilled beverage, or how you're building a list to leverage for CSA distribution and market promotion.
Yeah.
It's so entrepreneurial, and
it's huge. Yeah. Yeah. And then, like, you know, farming especially, it's a lot of overlapping things need to happen at the same time. Like, you know, our admin, like, we got to be sending out like availability for next week while we're doing this week's harvest now. And we're seeing pest pressure changing right in front of our eyes. So like, what is next week's availability really going to be like, you know? And then you got to get those harvests to your customers and on time. And like, then you have social media, and that's a whole nother factor now. Like, who would have thought that like farmers have to like learn TikTok dances and stuff, you know? Like, it's crazy, but that's the world we're in now. So
look at you know, dwarf oranges against cuties and the different price that you can get for that, right? So branding is
huge.
Hit the small market farm scene, no doubt about it.
Yeah. But that's also one of the best parts, because it's fun to play with too. Because it's like, okay, like, how do I get to like really represent like us and our values in a label? Like, how can I communicate that? Like, we that's another thing that like we really want to incorporate in like in our business is like our creativity and like our like just enthusiasm for whatever we can create inspired from what's coming out of our farm. And so like how can we make our labels include some of that imagery, some of that color, some of that like feeling, that vibe of being out here with us, you know?
There's nothing better than the vibrancy that comes from a garden.
Oh yeah.
Really is unbelievable. Some of those colors and how they pop. With I was guilty of this myself. I was a finger wagging, never use chemicals guy, right? And you talked about being organic certified and the things that are allowable under organic, and even some of the things that are natural. We're a diatomaceous earth farm. We're a neem oil. We use BT or brassica goes nuts and looks like a stem the next day. Talk about some of those practices, and are you in conflict with some of your neighbors on the farm with using that, or is everybody on a similar page, or how do you align that with your neighbors in such a tight space?
Good question. In our situation specifically, we're kind of required to have those practices. It's part of our land use agreement. Windy City Harvest follows those same production practices, and so we're expected to be in alignment with, since like we're wholesaling through them and our products are going to be being shipped out together, we're expected to follow the same guidelines. And that's also for their GAP certification, like the Good Agriculture Producers certification.
Yeah. No, I love it.
Yeah. So fortunately, we're kind of preset to not have to have that challenge. But I can imagine that it would be pretty tricky, though. I think it is a pretty common theme in urban ag that people are focused on more sustainable and environmentally conscious practices in general. It's more the like big contract landscapers that I gotta squint at and be like, Because okay, so I have my job, my side project is beekeeping, and so I work with a rooftop farming company, and so I have beehives on rooftops all over Chicago that I take care of, and like you can see in the hives when they've been exposed to like pesticide use or like chemical exposure, and I'm like looking around, I'm like, I see these big fancy flower pots in front of these apartment buildings. Like, who do I need to go talk to?
Neonicotinoid or neonicotinoid.
Yeah. So,
as it relates to the work that you're doing and the end result, right? You're able to probably ship away a large amount of produce for the commercial contracts, and you're probably more connected to the end user in the market farm environment. What do you prefer? Do you prefer kind of aligning with a big grower and shipping out a bunch of stuff, or do you like to see the people whose plate it's going to go on and maybe hear back from them how good it is?
I'm a market interaction person entirely. I really thrive at farmers markets. That's where I want to be. Like, if that could just be my job, like that's great. I love that. It is much closer margins, so it comes with its own challenges, its own practice, but it is my favorite. I really like talking to people, and I like exploring new cultivars or new varieties of things, and I really like sharing them out with people and then getting those reactions. Like I love surprising people with what we have on our table. I think it's so fun.
I love it. And again, another kind of through line is the challenge that you as a small business owner face in, the commercial contracts, potentially more profitable, maybe less joy, the market, huge investment of time, tighter margins. How do you guys balance that, and what other revenue streams are you guys developing, or have you identified that you wish to develop in the future?
Good question. Well, we're unique because we also have our floral leg of business. So we did partner with Level Up Coffee Shop in Bronzeville this season. They just opened earlier this spring, and so we had monthly floral pop-ups there. And so it's still, like a kind of like a market custom, like direct to customer interaction, but we kind of categorize it separately in our brains as like the floral department. And so having that leg kind of supplement what we're doing at our, like we do bring flowers to the traditional farmers market, but it's being strictly a flower event, it kind of helps supplement those markets. So that was a key element for us. And then being able to connect again, just kind of through our various networks. We had a couple private events order wholesale florals, and that was big for us, like way big for us. That was great. And there's the Chicago Flower Market, and she organizes local Chicago flower growers and kind of distributes for us. So that was another kind of like wholesale relationship that we were able to establish. She's great. So, it is a conversation we're having. We're currently crop planning for next year. So it is a conversation we're having on like, there's 2 markets from this season that we feel pretty committed to, that we're like, we want to be here indefinitely. This is a community that we vibe with, we match with, or we care about deeply. And it's like, regardless of sales, it's a good use of our time and we want to be there. So those we're going to do, but we're kind of back and forth on like how many more are we exploring? Because, we can pop up here and there and give them a taste, but you kind of have to go to a market a couple times to really pick up the feel and the flow of the space. So yeah, it's a conversation, and it is definitely hard.
CSA something that you guys are able to with your existing licensing agreement, or
say that again?
Are you guys able to do a CSA, or do you have that?
Oh, we could. Yeah, we could. That is not a model we've decided to pursue at this time. Yeah. It's just so much administration side of things to be able to plan accordingly, to have a good selection available throughout the season, and then deliveries and everything. We would love to scale there. But, we are going through a restructuring business. We started with 3 and we're ending the year with 2. So that's a big factor in these conversations we're having. I'm like, okay, like our labor is changing, and we're looking for some like grant sourcing to maybe, have some extra help around. But our season's going to look different, and it was going to look different no matter what, because year 1 to year 2.
You're going to get some of that $12 billion that Donald Trump just announced, right? As a small farmer, you're going to get a big chunk of it.
1,000%. As long as the USDA considers me a farmer still.
No, and a lot of the doom and gloom around some of the small farm programs has recovered slightly. Would you say?
Some it's a lot. There's more like state and local level, or like things that are pulling through for folks.
Different organizations have stepped up.
Yeah, and it was a big factor for us this year. Part of our crop planning last fall was around LFPA buyers that we were expecting, and right as our season started, that got cut. So that totally changed our sales projections, like overnight, like quite literally totally changed what our farm could expect to do.
We saw that with the local Food for Schools programs as well.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, I haven't seen, like, in the channels that we were looking to connect through, we haven't seen that bounce back yet. But like I said, I've seen talk and conversation of some of the state level and local organizations doing what they can to fill those gaps. So I'm hopeful, but this could be a whole other podcast episode of how like local community and like that network around urban ag is going to have to happen. But
hyper important, right? I mean, it's almost like you don't learn the lessons of history when the food infrastructure was so broken during COVID. Then all this money got funneled into developing small farms and local production and limited transport. And now it seems like the pendulum is swinging back in the other way. To that end, how do you see urban farms like yours shifting the narrative around where food comes from? And a lot of urban kids, I make the joke, we used to work for the DuPage County Fair and other ag organizations, and kids used to think chocolate milk came from brown cows or chicken eggs came from the store, right? So we could do a whole other podcast on this. So when I was in Michigan, I was working in schools and doing school gardens and kind of the more like nutrition and food education side of things, and working with young folks, and that experience when kids like learn that like carrots have green parts to them. Like it's crazy to have that interaction and like regularly. Where do I begin on this? So I really think that for urban ag to be successful, it requires multi-level networks working together. And there's a lot of gaps still to be filled in. It wasn't until recently like the USDA considered urban farmers. So all of those farm
funding grants that are like that you see coming through, like we couldn't apply for it. We couldn't qualify for it until recently. And things are changing so quickly with this administration that, like who knows how that's going to really turn out. So it's things like, like here in Chicago, we have like Advocates for Urban Ag, we have CIFPAC, we have the Northern Illinois Young Farmers Coalition. Like we have these organizations that are kind of layering on top of each other, not to overlap the work, but to kind of see where things are falling through the cracks. So like, for example, something we talked about a lot in our incubator cohort this year was like, okay, we have access to this land for 2 years, maybe up to 5, depending on some like qualifications. And there are these like Chai block builder programs where we can access land. There are people like churches or other organizations that already own lots and would like to host somebody. But it takes time and a lot of funding to develop an urban lot into something that you can actually grow on. We can't just go right into that soil, So it takes some remediation process. It takes some infrastructure, and, that can be ready next season if you have the funding, but most of us don't have that kind of funding. So it's probably more likely going to be a few season process, if not longer, to actually acquire and build out land to continue. So if I'm here for 2 years and I really need 2 to 3 years of business history to really get any of these loans or funding options or things that are available to us, this program is a great incubator program, but there's a gap here because I'm off in 2 years and I need at least like 4 or 5 years to acquire a piece of land. Like, what am I doing in the meantime? Because I'm not going to be a farm at that point. I'll just be kind of like waiting to be a farm again. And those are the kind of questions and things where, like we don't know those problems exist until we try to establish the steps in between. And that's where these organizations kind of layering on top of each other. Like Windy City Harvest is like, hey, we're training people. We're putting this incubator together. We've been doing this for a long time. We have established relationships and channels. Like we can be a diving board for people. And that's great. That's necessary. And like leaning into and supporting these kind of programs and like really like us, the people that get to take advantage of these programs, really leaning into it and uplifting it is necessary. And then there are folks like CIFPAC and Advocates for Urban Ag that are helping fill the gaps in the water access and land access for that next level of shifting up, And so we don't know that gap exists until we're here now. And so we see this gap, and it's like now we have to work together to fill that space in between. And so that's not something that the USDA can have eyes on. That's not something that Illinois Extension Office can really comprehend until there's those of us here interacting with the current networks and systems and figuring out those holes. And so I don't know, I just really feel like us as players, like just being here and just like taking the incubator seriously at Windy City Harvest, like this year was the first year that all 8 of the plots were filled for many years now. Wow. So, having a group of farmers who are like, hey, we just came through this apprenticeship, but we take this seriously. Like we see the value in it. We are dedicated to educating the people we interact with. We are establishing communities of people who see the value in this. And, like, even if I'm done next season and I have to figure something out, like I'm still going to be around to support the incubators that come up behind me. Right. And that's what we have to do if we want urban ag to become what it can and should be,
Yeah, and it's a great segue into the next question about educating. And what is your goal in terms of offering grow education to other individuals or continuing to foster education throughout the intern cohort? Or is that a potential pipeline for, revenue generation and coursework and classes for teaching people to grow?
Yeah. Good question again. I definitely believe that is a huge revenue option. A lot of farms do it. There is a big coaching industry out there, and people are really taking advantage of that, and that's great. They can be awesome resources. I think it can be tricky to find instructors that are aligned with like your values at times. So, I think it's great. I think it's an option, maybe someday when we have scaled to the point that, like we have a little more leeway in our schedules, that's something that we could map out. In the meantime, like we're more interested in maybe doing community workshops. We did the Ramova theater market in Pilsen, and so there's like a homegrown studio there where they have like homemade makers doing workshops and things. So we're hoping to get in there, maybe do some bouquet education and whatnot.
Thank you, Nicole. The Ramova Market. That's where AJ and I.
Yes, that's where we met. It was good.
Homegrown studios in the Ramova Market.
Yeah, shout out for sure. Yes, yeah. But like we do have big dreams. Someday working in schools. Like I said, I was working in schools back in Michigan. I did work in some first coming into Chicago. So, getting back into that could be a dream. It kind of depends on how this farm goes and where it takes us. Our flowers were far more productive and successful than we anticipated. And so that's a leg that maybe we do end up leaning into that more than we ever expected in the first place. Our markets being present was a big thing for us, for our own emotional well-being and our own satisfaction in what we're doing. It was a big part of it. And so, maybe that's something we end up leaning more into. And then we have, maybe we do end up having courses on the side to supplement it out. It really depends on how the next few years go and where our farm ends up, Yeah,
no, it's I feel like this question is almost unfair because you talk a lot about already doing your garden plan or farm plan for next year. And then you talk a lot about what ifs in terms of, do we stay here? Do we go? Do we grow? Do we teach? Do you guys have a 5-year plan? Do you know what you want to do versus what leads you down?
Yes and no. So I definitely have a mental plan always happening, adjusting daily for sure. But it's
breathing, constantly morphing. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, okay. So to be fair though, this is what I'm doing now has been the plan for a very long time. I started working on farms in high school. And so it's been well over a decade that I've been working towards owning a farm and running it in a way that makes sense for me and my lifestyle and the people that I'll be working with and our general well-being. That's really important to me as a person, but also as a business owner. And so, farming is a really intense job and it's hard, it's hefty, it's labor. And I believe that there's some way we can do it and still take care of ourselves. And I'm really, that's kind of a focus that's helping guide it, is we're trying to see what can this be if it was designed in a way that's healthy for us. And it's honestly looking a lot like indigenous practices, things that have been co-opted and rebranded as regenerative farming, but with the actual connection to it on a personal, emotional level. I think that's the component that's been missing a lot in urban ag, is having that. I really shouldn't say a lot of urban ag, but it's something I've experienced with folks. Was that yes, this is something that can work really well in capitalism. It's going to work great for the future. It's, it's a really adaptable industry. So I can see the draw for it for sure, but it, going after it from a heart space is very different, I think. And so keeping that focus is kind of that's the end goal, I guess, is having something that you feel connected to and that you feel is impactful and purposeful for the bigger picture. Because right now our role is a farm and interacting and educating our customers as, they're trying our food. But down the line, maybe we're somewhere else in the network that's helping establish the opportunities for future farmers. And that's an opportunity that we should stay open to,
I love it. And again, another through line in terms of the conversations we have is we're balancing the need of having a job with finding the thing that charges us internally, that we want to, that we're drawn to, that we want to pursue, that we want to find a way to make a living for. I think a lot of people, both interviewees and fans out there, really can appreciate that and know that we all hope we're on the path to a bigger purpose.
Right.
To that end, and in reflection, is there a moment or memory from your journey to date that really sticks with you? A success, a struggle, a neighbor reaction, anything that stands out, like the quintessential Sister Sprig Farm moment?
I think, quintessential Sister Sprig is definitely spontaneous, singing and dancing moments. Like we're all we're all such quirky folks. So you never know when one of us is just gonna like start belting out the song that's playing in our head. Like you'll be in the field, it'll be quiet, it'll be the birds, and then you got like la da dee like coming out somewhere.
Sounds like a life getting verbalized. Yeah.
Yeah. So that is a pretty, we're hoping to have a good like volunteer schedule next year. So maybe you folks can come out and experience the magic.
Well, please put me first on the list. I will come out and help, and would love to check out the space. And I got a few rhymes I can spit.
Okay, great. Perfect. Yeah. So that, and then I think there's a moment from like way back when I was in high school, like one of my first times working on a farm. They did have a CSA, and theirs was like a pickup model. So like we would go and we would set up the table and be like, okay, you can grab one of this or one of this, and then like two of this, like down the line kind of thing. And that was my first season growing kohlrabi, which is now one of my personal favorites. It is like the underdog of all underdogs. Please grow kohlrabi. Please. How
do you eat it? Do you coleslaw it, or do you?
Honestly, I just slice it and use it like a cracker with like cheese and crackers.
Yeah.
Like just little like that is my go-to. I love it. Yes. So anyway, shameless plug, kohlrabi, grow it. But we set up the CSA table, and I was like, yeah, this is such a cool new crop. Like I thought it was a new crop, like whatever. What do I know? And I was like, this is so cool. Like, man, I love getting exposed to this. And then a family came through to pick up their CSA, and this kid, like maybe like 6, he like runs the table. He's like, yes, Mom, we get kohlrabi this week. And I was just like, wait, that's it. Like this, I was like, that was like the moment that I was like, this is the experience I want. Like, this is what I want to know. This is what I want to see happen. Like, yes.
100%. Yeah, I love that. And kohlrabi is such a strange looking, uninviting.
So weird. Yeah, I love it. Yeah, and we didn't grow it this year, but maybe I'm just going to throw some in the cropland because I got a heart for it. So.
I mean, we were doing a mobile food pantry, and somebody had a rutabaga, and it was the size of my head. And I'm like, I grow food. I eat everything fresh out of the garden. I wouldn't even know what to do with that. So I had to look it up. And again, that was kind of one of the reasons we thought, let's share this information with people. If there's something that I, again, locally produced, domestic, that I don't know how to handle, like there's other people that really need that information. So
yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah, it's fun to kind of walk through some of the neighborhoods. Living in Chicago now is a really fun treat because sometimes walking through neighborhoods, you'll see people's gardens and you get to see a lot of like cultural foods. And I'm like, ooh, what is that? I've seen like a squash like as big as me hanging over a fence. And I'm like, what is it? I gotta know. I need to know. Like
Ambicino or?
I honestly never figured that one out, but it was literally like as big as me. I was so impressed. And I was like, this is so great. It was like hanging off like one of those, it's like regular little chain.
Yeah.
And I was like, this is going to pull this fence down. I'm sure of it. Like, it's great.
We saw a bitter melon for the first time growing in Indiana, and I'm like, I have to grow that. So we got it and stored the seeds. I'm going to try next year, especially with the increased heat we've got in our region. You guys are Zone 5B too, right?
No, we shifted into 6. Just like Chicago area shifted.
Yeah, there's a weird like microclimate because of the dunes right by us that I think kept us under that.
Oh, yeah, that'll do that. The dunes will do that. Yeah.
Awesome. So I told you we would either be 25 minutes struggling for things to say, or we'd be 45 minutes, and here we are.
We're 45 minutes in. We're good.
Coming to the end, and AJ, I so appreciate your time. I've got one more question for you if you have the time.
For sure. Yeah.
Awesome. So this is again kind of a big picture. How does farming, growing plants, nurturing soil, and community tie into broader culture, identity, resilience, and maybe regeneration for you and your team, I guess? Yeah.
Wow, what a question.
Big picture.
Okay.
Big picture.
Yeah, really big picture. Okay. I'm going to try my best to grasp this. So for me personally, I really care about personal development and growth through whatever we're doing. And so I want our business to reflect that. Hopefully that's the goal. And, like I said we started with 3 and we're ending with 2 this year. And so that was a big experience, and it was something that could have raised a lot of doubts about whether or not we're doing this right or we're doing the right thing. is this kind of a model that will work or can work? And I think something that we're learning through it is that is part of it all, that like it's not like entrepreneurship isn't for everybody, and that's a good, not like a good thing, but it's an okay thing. It's fine. It's normal. And like, it's good that people have the chances to try it out and see that it's for them or not for them. And then it also, in doing so, forces us to see things about ourselves that contributed to the situation that got us to this point, right? And so I think, trying to keep this as concise as possible, specifically relationship with soil and growing food and nature, and like the way, like you grow food and then you literally eat it, and your body is quite literally made from that food you ate. And so having that relationship of nurturing the soil and the living being that it is to produce the food into the like nutrient dense, flavorful, nourishing sustenance that it is for ourselves, like that is like self-love on a level that I think a lot of people have never really stopped to comprehend, because we consume so much stuff all the time, and we very, especially in the United States and like in capitalistic consumer culture, we very, very rarely get to be a part of creating that thing that we're consuming. So on literally a cellular level, having this relationship with your food changes the relationship you have with yourself. And so that first and foremost changes people, like there is a clear connection in nutrition and behavioral health. So, like we can go on a tangent on literally every level of like on our cellular health level to our mental and behavioral health level, which leads right into community health and interpersonal relationships. But us as a business and thinking about these things and how we do business and how that mirrors that relationship with self, it really forces us to look at ourselves and see the things that we're doing that are, have been maybe holding ourselves back, and we never quite realize the ways in which it might be impacting other people around us. And that, I don't know, I think that awareness is a big part of being in community in general, is being aware of like, nothing is really ever just about yourself, if that makes sense. Like everything, every choice you make in some way impacts somebody else, either in your community or even somewhere on the other part of the planet. So really having this deeply personal relationship with growing food and building a business around that deep personal relationship is the hope, I guess, is that it'll role model what it looks like to exist and take up space in this bigger consumer network, in making healthy choices for self that can be also healthy choices for community.
I love
Does that
it.
make sense?
What a good closing entry into this interview. AJ, I can't thank you enough coming and representing Sister Sprig Farm, growing, knowing, and showing people throughout Chicagoland how important it is to eat produce that's been locally grown, locally sourced, pesticide-free. We really appreciate you. And in closing, if you can tell everybody where they can stay connected with you, follow you, reach out, DM for questions, anything of that nature.
Yeah. Well, first of all, thank you so much for creating this platform and hosting this space. And for us, this is really awesome. So thank you very much as well. Yeah. So yeah, I'm AJ of Sister Sprig Farm. You can email us at sistersprigfarm@gmail.com. Otherwise, Instagram, Sister Sprig Farm. DMs are welcome and open, and there will be a website coming soon in January. So definitely tap in and get into that.
Tap in for sure. All right. Well, I appreciate it. I'm going to pull you out into the green room. If you can stick around a little minute after I close the show, we'll talk. All right. Thanks, AJ. We appreciate your time. Again, my name is Joe Skibby with Beets, Beds, and Browns, shining a light on emerging hip-hop artists, garden interests from homestead to commercial ag, and bourbon whiskey distillers. We love to have a little fun while we're gardening with good music and brown spirits. If you like these things, please tap in, subscribe at YouTube. Join us on your social media of choice at Beets, Beds, Browns. and get your free seed kit so you can start growing. Our mission of hashtag 100K in 10 YRS, 100K in 10 years, is really to get people growing their own food like we did, starting from a seed pack and now growing a significant portion, canning, seed saving, advocating. We can't have enough people advocating for us in this space. So thank you and happy planting.